Welcome back to another episode of Hot Takes, where I go over your hot music production takes. This is episode 2. I asked you guys to submit this stuff to me on my Twitter or Instagram. If you guys want to send in hot takes for the next one, follow me there. DJ Suzanu says, just clip the snare at -0 dB and cut the lows out and 4K. That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's the secret there. Elijah Cuttlefish says, why so loud? I'm assuming you're talking about why is music so loud? To get people's attention. The louder something is, the more it draws your attention. I'm just going to be explaining common sense things today. Forgive Love says, Kickstart/other sidechain plugins that you use on hi-hats sound cool. If I sidechain my hi-hats, it's just like a very little bit to give it a little groove, I guess. But I'm not really a big fan of doing heavy sidechain on the hi-hats. I'm sure there's opportunities where it works alright. Jackson Zimmer says, if you can't make your songs sound good with stock plugins, you have no reason to be dropping hundreds of dollars on plugins to try and magically fix the issue. I agree. So if you don't know how to use your stock DAW plugins, using more expensive plugins will probably not help you. I'm sure there's a few cases where that's not the case. Like there's some plugins that mix or master for you, like Neutron or Ozone, so that can maybe help you a bit. But if you don't even know what you're doing to begin with, you could easily go down the wrong path. There's definitely some things that you can get with third-party plugins that you can't get in your DAW. One example would be Melodyne. There's a few DAWs that have that built in, but Ableton doesn't have those, sadly. Vocal Line is another one if you want to line up multiple vocal takes to get one nice sounding vocal stack. But yeah, if you're a new person and you're trying to just get better by using third-party plugins, it's probably not going to help. Pygmalion Artist says, leave every channel at 0 dB, do mixing through EQ, sound choice, and volume control. I agree. He's saying leave the faders at 0, and that's actually not a bad strategy. You want to do that as long as possible. I believe it's because decibels is measured logarithmically. The further you bring down the fader, the less room you have on the fader. So like every little move you make on it, it's going to make a bigger change in decibels. So it's actually good to mix without moving the faders at first. And you have the most movement space at 0 decibels or around 0 decibels. So it's good to use like a utility tool or something. Obviously EQ and sound choice are important though as well. Osborne Frost says, writer's block doesn't actually exist. People just don't know how to optimize their workflow. And I don't just mean production workflow, I mean the entire creative process, everything from lifestyle habits all the way to how you set up your DAW template and everything in between. I've heard a really interesting theory before that if you force yourself to be creative every day, then you kind of don't have a chance to get writer's block, or you literally can't have it because you don't really get in that mindset of like forgetting how to do it. They say there's a creativity muscle, obviously not literally, and the more you use it, the more you know how to use it. So I do agree with this in some aspects. I think sometimes people do get stuck though, but like you can also find ways to get around that. Like trying new methods, I don't know, sending it off for collaboration. There's a lot of other ways around that in my opinion. Just smoke some weed, bro. Rafi says, a perfect mix doesn't mean a great song. Okay, we did this one in the last video. So I'm going to skip over anything that's kind of just a repeat at this point. There's tons of great songs with okay mixing and bad songs with great mixing. Coda Clef says, TikTok has been pretty great for musicians, producers in the music industry. Yes, viral marketing exists, but that isn't new. I agree. The algorithm on TikTok is actually pretty decent for musicians and producers if you know how to wield it. You can definitely find ways to get your music out there or to get your name out there. Yeah, it's kind of lame how there's like people trying to force their shit to blow up through that at the same time. I guess it's kind of like an overlap there between that. It isn't new. It's just more on the surface now. All right, Von Storm says, Ableton's UI makes producing feel like homework. I disagree, mostly because I'm an Ableton user. Any software that you don't feel comfortable with will feel like homework. So I'm assuming you don't use Ableton, and that's probably why it feels that way. If I use FL Studio, then that feels like homework to me, personally. Or if I use Pro Tools or something. DJ Suzanu, you already sent one in. You're banned. Alright, FL Specific. Then he's got some pictures here. I don't really know what I'm looking at except for the fact that he turned on the hold. I'm not really sure what the implication here is. Okay, Poolboy Cube says, people that complain and get all broody and talk on social media like they're gonna quit music should just quit music because they clearly aren't cut out for it. As much as I would like to disagree with this because it's really negative, I actually kind of do agree with this because I think trying to do any sort of creative field nowadays as an independent person, it's pretty fucking tough. And you're gonna have a lot of days where you feel like you're not going anywhere, or maybe you aren't cut out for this or something. And if you can't suck it up and work through it and just grind, you gotta have a sociopathic grind, in my opinion. If you can't do that, you're never gonna make it. Seriously though, because I know a lot of people that get kind of depressed when they put out a song or a video that doesn't, live up to their expectations. And, I've had this issue a little bit sometimes too, but I think like the key is just to remember that your emotional value or your personal value has no connection to that. Like, if anything, you should just like be happy with the content you're making and not really the numbers that reflect whether or not people even see it. Because usually views is just whether or not people see it. Eric D says style over mixing, never forget. Yeah, we did this in the last episode, guys, I'm sorry. Okay, Metkovic says, never saw the point of compression on every single track. I agree for the most part. There's reasons to do compression, and there's reasons to not do compression. Generally, people compress because they are either trying to make something louder or they're trying to control the peaks. I find myself using a little bit of parallel compression on everything in a mix sometimes. Parallel compression being like layering compression with the dry signal. So I'm not really sure if I agree on this one or not. I mean, I don't just sit down and compress everything right out the gate. If I'm like, hey, I want this to be a little bit louder in the mix, but I don't want to literally turn it up, I might do a little parallel compression on it. All right, Sore says, Nani is the best distortion plugin. This is not a paid advertisement for Nani. No, I mean, I really don't think there's that much of a difference between a lot of distortion plugins. The good thing about Nani, though, is it's a pretty affordable one. I mean, it sounds pretty clean, I guess. I honestly don't know if there's a huge advantage over using Nani over other distortion plugins. I do like it more than stock distortion, though. And I do reach for different distortion plugins depending on what I'm doing. If I'm trying to get my bass sounding a little more crunchy or something, or make it cut through the mix more, then going for Nani might be a pretty good deal. If I'm trying to like completely just change the tone or the way it sounds, then I might go for something like Trash. Static Angel says, songwriting makes a song, not the production. Some people overproduce okay tunes. I'd rather listen to a well-written song with okay production. And she says, I will say though, this might not apply to heavy sound design genres like dubstep, neurofunk, but generally this is what I prefer in my personal opinion. Yeah, I definitely agree. Good songwriting goes a lot further than production, unless you're talking about like a very production influenced genre, like, like what you were mentioning, pretty much bass music. But yeah, knowing how to like write different sections of a song, how to write a bridge, how to like change chords, how to write a good melody, all that stuff is way more important than production. I feel like this one's a troll, but I'm gonna hear him out anyways. All right, Celty says, always brickwall your master, set the threshold all the way up, gain all the way down. So I mean, that just sounds like it's going to do nothing. So I agree. All right, Nick Neutron says, every 5 years, mixes that were considered bad are considered good, and vice versa. I feel like I need more context for this. Maybe if you're talking about like raw mixes and like certain genres, I guess, maybe like rap. Like there's one genre I can maybe see this like sort of working for. I don't know though. I think I kind of just disagree with this one. I don't really know what you mean by that. Tokyo Ghost 777 says, there's no right way to mix your tracks. If it sounds good, then it sounds good. Yeah, this is somewhat true. You want to mix using your ears, but definitely you want to understand techniques to get to where you're trying to get with your ears. Okay, Mike Anderson says, leave under 20 hertz in, don't at me. I kind of disagree. Usually like below 20 hertz, maybe not hard 20, like maybe like 15 hertz or so, 10 hertz. That shit's all just noise that you can't even hear. Like it's just like rumble that's taking up like headroom essentially. If you think you're cutting out your bass there, try boosting above that while you're cutting out those low frequencies, those low frequencies, and you may realize that you're actually cutting out virtually nothing. Like if you want to make the bass louder, then just boost the frequencies above it. Like if you're cutting 15 hertz, try boosting 30-ish as well. And you may realize like, oh, I can actually make my bass louder while doing this. Don't add him, I guess. I don't know how you say his name. Coriel? It's late at night. One of those memes again. Coriel says, finish what you started. I agree. I'm not the best example of this. I have literally like 6 different folders on my desktop with folders inside of them with just like hundreds, maybe thousands of project files that are unfinished. Some of them are really good, some of them are really bad, and at a certain point when you let them all stack up like this, you can't even tell what's what anymore. Like you don't know what's good and what's bad and what's worth finishing, what's not worth finishing. So, I think this is good advice because otherwise you can get really overwhelmed like I am. Portal is better than Sex. Have you tried Fragments though? All I'm saying is you gotta try Fragments. It's better than Portal and Sex. It has a lot more features than Sex, that is. Yeah, I don't know. Portal's really hard to control in terms of like the rhythm. I don't know. A lot of times when I use Portal, I find it makes it a lot more offbeat. Like, it can make great sounds, but it just makes it a lot more offbeat. So I end up having to warp it back on beat. Okay, Xandon has a mixing and mastering thing that we talked about in the last video, so I'm gonna skip over that one. Without says, the importance of mastering is overrated. In my opinion, it's 90% mix, 10% mastering. Yeah, it's pretty much true, especially nowadays because the loudness wars are somewhat over. Thank God. You guys remember when the loudness wars existed? I mean, they're still going on, but it's more of a battle now because basically only SoundCloud is like the only platform where people are still kind of doing the loudness wars. On Spotify and most other distribution platforms, -14 LUFS is all you need to get to. So yeah, mastering is not as big of a deal as it used to be. But yeah, that's actually how mastering is supposed to be to begin with. Like, mastering doesn't do more than 20% at most for the song. Probably like 10% is closer. Okay, for some reason this one didn't show up when I was looking at the Twitter post. Maybe you are shadow banned, Tree City. I don't know. But anyways, he says, music is a soul-to-soul connection, and your skill of production matters a lot less than how real and kind of a person you are. I actually have to disagree with this one. Explain Mr. Carmack then. I don't know, but I just don't really agree. I think there's plenty of really good people that make bad music and really bad people that make really good music. All right, that was all the responses. Thank you guys for sending those in. This has been another episode of Music Production Hot Takes. I'm your host, Weaver Beats. Make sure to check out my Discord, Twitter, and Instagram if you guys want to send in your own hot takes for the next video. I'll make a post about it probably in the next month or so. I don't know. I want to give people time to think of new hot takes. So try to work your brains there, guys. Don't get any writer's block. If you guys want to support the channel, Patreon, affiliate links, and I'll see you guys next time.